Hello everyone, my name is Devansh and I welcome you back to the channel. So I'm here to present the Prescene Analysis for the Gateway or the Management Case Study exam in May 2022 and August 2022. As you may know, the Prescene company that CIMA have released is called Piping Beverages or Piping. So we have created a very detailed Prescene analysis on the document that CIMA have released. So first and foremost, we are CIMA registered tuition providers and we are working with CIMA on very many backgrounds to increase the pass rates for the management or the gateway case study exam. We've seen that historically the gateway pass rates have been quite low and the management case study exam pass rates have also been in the mediocre segment. So we want to present top class material to give you a good chance at passing this exam. Throughout this entire Prescene analysis, we are going to go through very minute details, very minute suggestions to help you understand the company, plus to help you make links to your E2, P2 and F2 syllabus, which is the backbone of the management or the gateway case study exam. So very clearly we have made the Prescene and very clearly we're going to explain each part of the Prescene to you. Before I move on, something that we introduce to help you further in your exams, that is our free mini course. So it's a free 3-day mini course on the management or the gateway case study exam for May and August specifically. It's not just a random course created for any exam, it's specifically curated for the May and August management gateway case study exam, making it very specific to piping beverages because that's our Prescene company. That's what they're going to ask us questions on. So we have created a free mini course. The link of this mini course is in the description box below. Let me just tell you how it's going to help you. Now in this mini course, we have divided it into 3 days because there is lots of material that we want to give you. We're going to rather help you understand the structure of the exam, the skills you require for the exam, help you create a personalized study plan. We give you the industry analysis. We give you first part of the Prescene again. We'll give you an explanation of the blueprints or the core areas that CIMA have released. We'll give you answer writing tips, tricks. We'll give you a free mini mock exam which you can take and which will be personally marked by the team of tutors that we have. And there is lots more. There is much more which is going to add a whole lot of value to your studies. All of this is free. We do not charge for it. The link is in the description below. We want to try to help as many students as we can with the help of our material. So all of this is available in my mini course. It's for free. There is nothing to lose. You must try it out. Again, the link is in the description box below. I'll put it right at the top. You just have to click on it. It will take you to our website where you can start getting the benefit of this mini course. This video specifically is for the Prescene analysis. So without wasting any time, let's start analyzing the company and you'll see how much detail we present because we want to be clear. We want to create a rock solid base for your studies from the very beginning. Let me begin. The first thing we come to is the introduction. Now, remember that the Prescene that CIMA has released, we have taken all the material from there, put it in a Word file, and then we have added our own explanations, added our own links to your E2, P2 and F2 syllabus. So there will be nothing that is missing. This Prescene will cover everything in its details. We'll make sure that everything is covered and you will not miss out on anything. We'll go word by word, line by line, page by page, explaining to you every part of your company because that is very important. And at every stage, we are going to make relations to your E2, P2 and F2 syllabus, showcasing you that these topics can come up. This is the characteristic of your company. This is the culture of your company. All of this is very, very important to know and take to mock writing, which is the third step in the preparation. So step number 1 is your revision step. Step number 2 is your pre-scene step. Step number 3 is actually writing exam styled mock questions. But to do all of this, step number 1 and 2 need to be very clearly ready. So through this pre-scene analysis, we will aim to understand our company in detail at every stage, relating it to E2, P2 and F2. Let's begin. Piping Beverages, or Piping, is a quoted company that manufactures packaged tea for sale to retailers. In my industry analysis, I have made it clear that what the tea manufacturing industry is like in the global world, and if you've gone through it, you would already have background about this industry and will start making sense as we go deeper into the pre-scene. If you haven't done my industry analysis, please go back and get that done first. So over here, I saw quoted company as an interesting site. It's important for us to have in mind that a quoted company has some advantages, disadvantages. Just acknowledge it. So the advantages are you have easy access to capital for growth if required, enhanced visibility, you're listed on the stock exchange, and the business is somewhat transparent. Disadvantages are lots of reporting requirements, lots of reporting scrutiny, which if is not met, then you can face liabilities or penalties. So let's just keep in mind, we are a quoted company, we are a listed company, and we are a manufacturer. Now, everything relating to listing, everything relating to your equity finance, debt finance is part of your F2 syllabus. We are going to explore more topics under the F2 syllabus when a clear-cut representation comes up in the pre-scene. But right now we dealt with the word quoted, and this is definitely part of your syllabus. So I had to point it out to you. At every stage, we'll be pointing out important syllabus areas for you. Moving on, Piping buys the tea that it uses in bulk on the open market. So from this we learn that we buy the most important raw material for our business, which means the tea leaves you'll buy from the open market and then manufacture it into the different green tea, black tea, loose tea, however you are selling it, and then sell it to the retailers. This tells me that I am not my own supplier in this case. For example, if you look at the biggest tea sellers in the world, I spoke about this in the industry analysis as well. Let's say, for example, Tata Tea. Tata Tea has its own plantations in parts of India, Sri Lanka, China. This is where they grow their tea. They will source it from their own tea plantations, manufacture, and then sell around the world. So many companies in this business control their own raw material by investing or owning tea plantations. This is called backward vertical integration, which has many positives. So important for us to acknowledge here that I'm not my own supplier. I'm not vertically integrated. It can be beneficial as we move on for Piping to invest, as we are growing, to invest in tea plantations, own tea plantations, so you can control your supply and you don't have to buy at an open market price that is affected by very many factors. We know that. So this is just an opportunity which I thought we must speak about. As you can see, at every stage, word by word, we are going through the pre-scene. Whenever something interesting comes up, we make a note on it, because our job is to understand this company in detail, this market in detail, so we don't miss out on anything. Piping is based in Northlandia. So they say that a fictional country called Northlandia exists, which is a developed country that has a strong economy and whose citizens have a high standard of living. They're giving us some very important information here. Why? Let's make an analysis of this. First and foremost, you are part of a developed country. The developed country has a strong economy and citizens have high standards of living. This clearly tells me that the demand conditions the demand factors of your external market are going to be strong because people have the disposable income to spend. Culture in that particular country would be something that is accepting tea. That is why piping has situated itself over there. And citizens have a high standard of living, which means they're okay to spend on innovative products, innovative tea products, as well as we spoke about in the industry analysis. So from this we learn Westland is a highly developed, in this case Northlandia is a highly developed economy, which means people have the interest and the disposable income to spend on innovative products like ours. So this has to be seen as a comparative advantage for my business, that I'm situated in a country, Northlandia, which whose citizens rather have the money to spend and are interested in spending in such services because their standard of living is high. So it's a comparative advantage for my company, piping. Northlandia's currency is the N dollars. Northlandian company law requires companies to prepare their financial statements in accordance with the IFRS. So your F2 syllabus comes into the picture. They can ask you IFRS related question. They will, they can ask you anything related to any IFRS that is part of your F2 syllabus. So your F2 revision comes into the picture. As we go into the pre-scene, we'll highlight some specific IAS and IFRS that can be tested looking at the theme of the pre-scene. But right now, important to point out that the F2 syllabus is something that we must revise. You are a finance manager at Piping's head office. Now, in my introduction video at the very beginning, I had already discussed the role of a finance manager. So what does a finance manager do? I'm explaining it again over here. Finance manager will generally look at the medium-term focus, 3 to 5 years, risk management, long-term finance, advanced financial reporting, advising the top management, and considering all stakeholders when making decisions. Now, if you broadly look at these pointers, you will see that all of them correspond to your E2, P2 and F2 syllabus, which means a finance manager must be able to replicate E2, P2 and F2 syllabus in their preparation or in their presentation of any question that is asked to them. And that is the entire theme of the exam. Whenever something is asked to you, you should be able to present a viable argument for which you would require parts of your E2, P2 and F2 knowledge, specifically P2 as it is the most important pillar for your exam. Your primary responsibilities are associated with management accounting, and you report to Chana da Silva, the senior financial manager, who reports to the finance director. So it seems like a very hierarchical structure here. At the bottom there is the finance manager, which is you. Above that comes a senior finance manager. Above that comes a senior finance director, or let's say the director. So in this case, it feels like a very hierarchical trajectory, a very functional trajectory. But we'll speak more about the organizational structure of the organization as we move deeper into the pre-scene. There's a different section on that. But right now when I read this, that comes to my mind. So let me keep that and move on. The next section is the tea industry explanation that they're giving us. So as part of this pre-scene, they are giving us some background industry information before they give us the information on the company. So they're not talking about piping beverages yet. They're only speaking about the tea industry. But guess what? Students that have done my industry analysis would have already gone through the industry insights, the industry, I'll say, trends, restraining factors, the industry segmentation. So again, if you haven't done my industry analysis, you can simply go through it. But this, what you're seeing on your screen, is some industry knowledge that CIMA is giving you as part of the pre-scene. Let's go. Traditionally, tea is a hot drink made by soaking the dried leaves of the Camellia sinensis shrub in boiling water. Camellia sinensis is a clearly defined family of shrubs that includes a number of specific varieties. Leaves, plants, and buds from many other plants can be used to make drinks that are often referred to as tea, although strictly that title should be restricted to leaves from one of the shrubs belonging to the Camellia sinensis family only. So it's a very specific raw material. It's a very specific input that you require. You can't use any leaves and make tea and then sell it. The flavor will be very different. So from this we see that a specific drink can only be created from specific inputs, meaning the sourcing and maintaining the quality will be key. So for any business that is manufacturing tea, the Camellia sinensis shrubs that are required, or the leaves that are required from this shrub, will be very important to maintain, because otherwise the quality of your tea, the taste of your tea will be very different and customers won't like that. So your topics relating to quality costs, quality management, everything related to quality becomes very important here, and this is your P2 syllabus. So quality related issues, P2 syllabus coming into the picture now. All references to tea in this document will be to products and drinks made from Camellia sinensis leaves only. So remember, tea can only be called, or rather the drink that you have can only be called tea if Camellia sinensis leaves have been used. It's a very specific input. Growing and processing tea leaves now. The Camellia sinensis shrub is grown commercially in South Asia and East African countries. As we know from my industry analysis, the Southeast Asia region is where majority of the tea is grown. The best tea shrubs are grown at altitudes of between 1000 and 2000 meters. So again, the specific land requirements and land ownership will be very key here. Many multinationals own huge tea estates from where they source their tea and then manufacture it and sell to global markets. So we spoke about vertical integration already. The shrubs on tea plantations have useful lives that vary between 40 and 100 years, depending on the specific variety of the Camellia sinensis shrub. So it's a long life. I would say it's not a very short life. But since it has a predetermined lifeline, the continuous investment and upkeep of the same will be key. All of this that we see over here is bringing in the capital intensive nature of this industry. Owning the land, maintaining the land, huge tea estates, consistently replenishing the dying shrubs or the shrubs who finished their life. All of that is a huge investment. So the leaves are harvested by plantation workers who pluck leaves from the bushes every 7 to 14 days. A very labor intensive industry in its core. We know this from my industry analysis again. Again, huge capital, because labor nowadays getting more and more expensive, more and more difficult to find. So, it's adding to the competitive and to the capital intensive nature of this industry. This capital intensive nature that I'm repeatedly speaking about means that handling of equity finance, debt finance will become very important for any big global tea manufacturer. This brings in your F2 syllabus again, chapters 1 and 2. Moving on, the leaves are then processed using two main methods to produce two different types of tea. Black tea and green tea are the ones which are generally known. Now the green leaves are spread on racks to dry before being treated mechanically to break up the leaf cells. The processed leaves are left to absorb oxygen. Once they have been oxidized, they are blown with hot, dry air which turns them into the black color. The black tea is sometimes referred to as made tea or dry tea. So they're just telling you how black tea is made. Green tea, on the other hand, is made by steaming and heating the green leaves after they have been plucked. The leaves are not processed further, so they remain green. There is no process in the green tea. They remain green because of this reason. There is some further processing at the plantation with slightly different processes depending on whether the leaves are to be sold or to make loose tea or tea bags. Depending on how you're going to sell them, certain processes need to be conducted by the manufacturer. So then the leaves are bagged and sold to tea manufacturers, and then these manufacturers divide them according to how they want to sell it, make their own decisions. So where they're giving you a quick brief on how the two major types of tea are processed and how they are given forward to the manufacturers. As you can see, at every stage we are going line by line, not missing anything, understanding everything, because this is important information. The black tea is sold in bulk as a commodity, with many tea growing countries operating tea auctions that enable manufacturers, like piping in this case, to bid against one another in order to acquire a supply of tea leaves. This is very interesting. Being reliant on one commodity only raises the question of commodity price risk. Now, piping cannot manufacture tea if it doesn't receive tea leaves, right? So no matter what happens, it has to buy tea leaves. And this really brings into the picture of commodity price risk. What if the price of tea leaves skyrockets tomorrow? Will you be able to maintain your margins? No. So risk identification, continuous risk management relating to this commodity, always being on the lookout where you can buy efficiently, where the prices are low at the moment. All of this will be very important because you are relying on one commodity only. Because any storage commodity faces risks. For example, price risk. There can be adverse movements, something politically happened in the world. Nobody's trading with Southeast Asian countries. For example, the price can skyrocket, right? Because majority of the tea is grown there. So price risk comes into the picture. Your quantity or volume risks, you want to buy, but nobody's ready to sell. Your cost risk, if your input becomes very high, your raw material cost is very high, how will you control the other costs? How will you maintain your profit margins? So any commodity that you're going to store that you're completely reliant upon brings into the picture commodity price risk, which seems to be huge in this case. So your P2 topics relating to risk management come into the picture, and very importantly your F2 topics of consolidation, accounting, and foreign exchange risk management come into the picture, because we already know that your company Piping Beverages based in Northlandia, and these tea producing estates are majorly situated in Southeast Asia. So you'll be buying, right? When you're buying, there is definitely two different currencies. So your foreign exchange risk management, in the future they can say that you purchased a tea estate, it became your company, so how will you consolidate it? So consolidation also comes into the picture. You may ask to be explain the process of consolidation. So these topics become important because of this theme that has been set, because of the information that they're giving us. So as part of the pre-scene, it is our job to understand this underlying theme. And you can only understand it because we are going through it in so much details with you. Remember, wherever there's a slight doubt in your mind, pause this video, go back, get it cleared, and then move on. Because having absolute clarity from the pre-scene perspective is key. Moving on, black tea leaves from different countries have different flavors, and flavor can also be affected by the plantation. Manufacturers must keep the particular flavor of their tea blends and will often bid for leaves from a specific plantation only, so that their quality remains consistent. So evidently quality and consistency is going to be very important for any brand. So for example, if you're buying from a tea plantation in India, you'll always want to buy from there because the tea will be the same. You know the quality, you know the person, you've been in touch with them, and your tea that you manufacture will also taste the same eventually for the customer. If the tea leaves that you receive are of consistent quality, when you manufacture it into black tea or green tea, or however you're going to sell it as loose tea or tea packets, the quality will be maintained, right? So it's often the choice of big manufacturers to buy consistently from one tea plantation. So your supplier relationships, very important part of your P2 syllabus and E2 syllabus, relationship management. Moving on, they've given us a graph over here. This is the tea price as a commodity. You will see that the price is highly volatile. Up, down, it's consistently moving. It's a very volatile commodity. So volatility in the price of the commodity can be seen here. Proper management, proper ordering, proper storing will be very important. If you don't know the market scenario, you may end up losing hugely because you're always going to buy in bulk, right? So even a $1 difference here and there can have a very big negative, adverse effect on your balance sheet. So very important to manage well. Continuing with the industry information as part of this pre-scene. We have not started speaking about piping beverages yet. They're only speaking about this industry section yet. Tea manufacturing. So tea manufacturers import the tea leaves purchased at auction from growers. They are then blended and packaged, ready for sale to retailers. So as you can see, you're buying, processing, then selling. So the working capital cycle here, the business cycle here will be important to manage, because if you're buying from somebody, you're generally paying in 60 to 90 days. When you're selling to retailers, they're further going to sell it to somebody and then they're going to pay you back. So the holding period seems to be a little bit of an issue here, which needs to be managed, looked after. So the working capital cycle comes into the picture here. Just wanted to point that out for you. Each batch of black tea has a slightly different flavor because of factors such as weather conditions that they are grown in. Different plantation, different place, or even the same plantation, if there are extreme weather conditions, the flavor can, slightly vary. Tea manufacturers deal with that by employing skilled blenders to taste samples from each batch of tea leaves under laboratory conditions. So having prominent and executive blenders and tasters could be seen as our competitive advantage in this market. If you have highly skilled blenders, highly skilled tasters, they will definitely make sure that your tea taste is consistent and is not changing. So having good employees in this case, or specific employees like blenders, can be seen as a competitive advantage. The tasters note the precise flavor characteristics of each batch and determine a blend from different batches that will create the consistent tea flavor associated with your brand. So for example, you bought 2 batches of tea leaves, one from India, one from China. Or let's say you bought from two from India but different plantations. Obviously the tea will slightly be different. So what our skilled blenders will do is take a specific amount from batch A, specific amount from batch B, combine them to make sure that flavor of the tea is consistent. So brand management, brand consistency, quality management becomes very, very important. The mix of leaves from different sources varies slightly according to the flavors of each batch, but the tea that is sold should always taste the same for the customer. So once the tea is blended, it is packaged and prepared as products for sale to consumers, primarily through retailers, because we know from my industry analysis that the supermarkets and convenience stores are major places where tea is being sold and where consumers like to buy their tea from. because it's a one-stop shop. They can buy everything from a supermarket. So tea is majorly, or a big proportion of the tea is sold at supermarkets. The largest growth or the highest growth is in the online segment, which means people are ready to buy their tea online as well. Tea is sold to consumers in different forms as we know it. Loose tea is the first form. So loose tea leaves are sold in packets. Consumers spoon the leaves into a teapot of boiling water, and the mix is allowed to stand until the water has been infused with the flavor. So this is, one way tea is sold. Second one is tea bags. Tea bags are made by enclosing loose tea in a small bag of porous material. The bags vary in composition, but they are usually made from paper, plastic, or gauze. Consumers can use a teapot, or they can simply put the tea bag in a boiling water. Tea bag require the leaves to be ground more finely at the plantation because the water cannot flow through these leaves as freely as the loose leaves. A typical tea bag contains 1.5 grams of tea leaves. Remember, tea bags are very popular, but they have a very big sustainability issue as well because they are made from paper, plastic, or gauze. All three are something that can harm the environment when disposed of. So sustainability is something that we must keep in mind. Next, there are teapods as well. So teapods are sealed plastic containers that are designed to fit in the same machine that are used to make coffee from coffee pods. So it's like a pod put in a machine, it's then pressed and your tea comes out. Each brand of such machines requires pods that are made to accommodate its unique shape. Again, these are plastic containers. Sustainability issue coming to the fore again. The consumer inserts a pod into the machine, fills the machine's tank with water. The machine heats the water, punctures the pod, and forces the hot water through the pod, and your tea is ready to drink. The next category is ready to drink tea. So tea is sold in bottles. It can be a chilled drink or a chilled juice which has some sort of tea infusion in there. You can simply buy and drink. So this is a new and upcoming market with great opportunities. I wanted to point this out to you as well. So these are the different types of tea that is sold to consumers in different forms. We're now speaking about tea consumption. Tea is second only to water as the most widely consumed drink in the world, although its popularity varies significantly between countries. Northlandians specifically consume an average of 1.9 kilos of tea per person each year, putting them near the top of the global rankings. So as you can see, your company is situated in Northlandia, right? And the country that you are situated in, tea is so deeply ingrained into the culture that 1.9 kilos of tea per person on an average is what is being consumed. So this is evidencing that your market, the current place that you are selling your products in, has huge demand conditions. So you're in the right place. It's a competitive advantage for you. Northlandia is one of 8 countries where the average annual consumption exceeds 1 kilo per person. Tea drinking is deeply rooted in many national cultures, and you can say that Northlandian culture is also one where tea is very deeply rooted, because 1.9 kilos per person per year is a good amount of tea that's being consumed. Tea contains caffeine, which makes it refreshing. This makes it a stimulant, and anything that stimulates the mind or makes people feel fresh is going to drive demand. You'll want it more. Tea has generally become a habit for so many people that they cannot start their day, just like coffee. So tea consumption for Northlandia is on the higher side, which makes it a competitive advantage for you as a company. Tea is hydrating as well, and so helps the body to store fluid, which is very beneficial in hot climates or when taking a break from work or exercise. Tea is also believed to increase the body's defenses against a number of serious illnesses. Now, these are some of the points that tea companies market upon. They'll base their marketing based on these points, something that we should keep in mind. Next, again, there is a graph which says worldwide retail sales of tea in dollars, in billions. These numbers are in billions. You can see by 2025, the tea is, or the tea market worldwide is expected to reach 325 billion. That's the forecast that they have presented as part of this Prescene industry analysis. So they say that 325 billion is the projected sales. Right now in 2021, it's close to 30 billion. So you can see that they're expecting a very good growth trajectory, a very good growth rate. Further tells us you're in the market with an upward trajectory. That's a good thing. So further opportunities for growth, further opportunities of penetration need to be looked at. And that could be by introducing new products or by expanding geographically. We've spoken about this in the industry analysis. Next, cultural differences are also an effect in where the tea is prepared and how it's consumed. For example, black tea is very popular in some countries and green tea is preferred in others. It depends on, what people like. The relative popularities of tea bags versus loose tea also varies significantly. So from culture to culture, place to place, the product and the type in which the tea is sold varies. Finally, we have arrived at piping's history and products. So up until now, in this Prescene analysis, we first covered the introduction, and after that, the industry information for the tea industry was given to us in detail. We went through that. And now we are coming to piping's history and products. Piping was founded in 1852 in Northlandia's central city. You can see 1852 means you have been in the market for a whopping 170 years. Which means, do you know any business in the whole wide world that exists for close to 2 centuries and does not have any kind of goodwill or brand loyalty? I don't think so. It's not possible. So it has to be one of your biggest advantages that you have been in the market for 170 years, which means you have definitely garnered goodwill and resistance ability, that is why you have thrived for such a long period of time. Because every market goes through stages of booms, stages of recessions in 170 years, for sure. And if we have survived the same and grown during this phase, says a lot about the company. That the company can deal with, unsuitable environment changes, can deal with, policy changes, can deal with other external factors. And that is why it has survived for 170 years. Northlandia's climate is unsuitable for the growth of tea shrubs. And so tea manufacturers have always relied on imported tea leaves. Tea drinking has been part of our culture for many years and it remains popular. It's your competitive advantage. You are situated in a country where the tea consumption is high. The company was listed on the stock exchange in 1974, long back. Piping has grown steadily, focusing exclusively on black tea, and has been Northlandia's leading manufacturer for many years. Firstly, you have grown steadily, fine, but focusing exclusively on black tea. In my industry analysis, in this industry analysis that we did just now as part of the Prescene, we saw that there are many different kinds of teas. Black tea, green tea, already packaged tea, flavored tea, all different kinds of products are present. Piping is focusing on black tea specifically. Green tea, on the other hand, is the one that has the highest growth that we learned from our industry analysis, my extra industry analysis. So why have we not been focusing on green tea? Importantly, they mentioned that we focused excessively on black tea only. Why? This market has many opportunities as we have discussed. So if we want to keep growing, if we want to remain the leading manufacturer, if we want to remain the market leader, our ideas have to be open to the new and upcoming developments in this industry, in this market. Piping now produces several varieties of tea. Varieties of tea, not types, including two of the most popular teas, which is your piping tea in tea bags and as loose tea, or piping strong flavor, which comes in tea bags only. Piping was the first company to manufacture tea bags in Northlandia, introducing them back in 1958. Since then, it has created a number of innovative designs of tea bags. Each design improved the flavor of tea and made it better for the consumer. This showcases that from the very beginning, piping has had an innovative nature and market awareness from the very inception of the business. This tells us that we are open to innovation, research, development, which is the core of any market. Northlandians prefer tea bags to loose tea, so the culture in Northlandia is one preferring tea bags. Piping manufactures 360 million tea bags every week. Huge organization. The company also sells loose tea packets to cater for the demand of the minority of consumers or customers who prefer to make tea from loose leaves. So we have both products, but tea bags are overwhelmingly popular and we make 360 million tea bags every week. Now over here we can see that we are producing variety of products. Tea bags, strong flavored tea bags, loose leaves are sold as well. So as we are producing a different variety of different products, different variants as well, pricing them accurately will be key. And to price them accurately, costing them accurately will be key. So a robust costing system to track the business spends has to be looked upon. We'll speak about costing as we go deeper into the Prescene, which is part of your P2 syllabus, a very important part which will be spoken about as we go deeper. Piping teas are regarded as premium products that are slightly more expensive than competing brands. The company buys good quality tea leaves only. It spends heavily on advertising in order to promote brand awareness. Piping's packaging is both visually appealing and is designed to keep the contents fresh. So over here it is very important to understand the core values of my company. So what are my core values? My core values are being expensive than the competition, very good quality input, premium products, and hence customers are going to expect premium quality from you, spend on advertising, and our products are visually appealing as well. So remember, these are my core values. You cannot suggest something that is completely opposite your core values. For example, when you're writing an answer in the mocks, when you go to mock writing or when you go to the final exam, you just can't say that, let's buy this batch of tea because it's available for cheap. That can't be a suggestion, because in your culture, throughout these 170 years, you have given your customers premium quality. You must stay true to the brand. And to be able to understand that firmly, your core values need to be understood that I have stated here. And these cannot be compromised upon. Remember that. Before I move on, let me just take a step back for a second and remind you why we are doing this Prescene analysis. This Prescene analysis is being done first and foremost to understand our company in the detailed way that we are going through right now. Secondly, we are giving you highlights of your E2, P2 and F2 syllabus, pointers that you must revise through this Prescene. Thirdly, all of this information that we are giving you is for you to absorb, is for you to remember, and then somewhere, somehow use it when you go to mock writing. For example, when you are writing anything, any mock relating to marketing or expansion, you can start your answer by saying we have been in the market for 170 years. this showcases our resistance ability, and then, blah, 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 go on with writing your answer. But when you use company knowledge in your mocks, in your final exam, the examiner knows that this person has gone through the pre-scene in detail. And that is where your integration marks lie. And it is very important for the management of the gateway case study exam. Because think of it logically, you are a finance manager at a company. So whenever you write something, you are expected to give an answer as a person working in this company. So anything you write has to be specific to this company. And you'll only be able to do that if you've gone through the pre-scene in detail, like we are making you go through. So please do not, skim read carefully, line by line. Follow as we are explaining. Piping tea is popular because it matches the preferences of Northlandian customers who generally like a strong flavor that can be enhanced by adding both milk and sugar. Most of the company's output is sold through retailers in Northlandia, so we are relying on one channel more, which is the retailer's channel, although it exports tea to countries that share a preference for strong tea. So we see that it is a global company. So foreign exchange risks again come into the picture. You're exporting, you're also buying from a different place, you're exporting to different currencies and countries. So your foreign exchange risks and F2 syllabus comes into the picture here. Exports are also driven by demand from Northlandian expatriates who have settled abroad and still want to drink their favorite tea. So focus here has to be on developing the brand and efficient production to maintain high quality and innovativeness and sustain any turbulence in the market. Remember, innovativeness is in your company's culture. Always need to keep looking. What I see over here as a gap is that most is sold through retailers in Northlandia. The online channel is not being specifically mentioned here. Secondly, you export tea to countries that have a preference for strong tea. What about the major growing market, which is the Asia Pacific region? Why don't we come up with a kind of tea that we can sell over there as well? You're already a global brand. You will already have acknowledgements around the world. It could be a very big and lucrative opportunity for you. Keep this in mind. Next, we come to the operations section. Piping has a factory in Central City in Northlandia, where it employs 700 staff. A further 200 staff are involved in buying, marketing, and admin. They are based at the head office building that is also close to the factory. First and foremost, two major assets are being mentioned here, your factory and your head office. There can be situations where they ask you to calculate, not to calculate, but they can give you a calculation and then evaluate the NPV and IRR of a new project, a new machine, a new factory that you may be expanding to. There are no calculations, no sums in your management gateway case study exam, but there are explanations definitely. So they can tell you that the current machine is generating, or the current project will generate X NPV. New project, new machine will generate Y NPV. Which is better? Why is it better? So your P2 syllabus of investment appraisal comes into the picture. And it can be NPV, IRR, ARR, MIRR, payback, discounted payback. Any of these can be tested. P2 syllabus is very important. Another aspect is that the fact that we have 900 employees, which brings into the question responsibility, delegation, leadership styles, team management, conflict resolution. Conflicts often arise in business environments, right? So your E2 syllabus on these topics is one that you need to consider over here. Black tea is purchased at auctions held in various tea producing countries. We already know this. Piping has a sophisticated digital buying system that predicts the company's requirement for tea from different locations and matches those requirements to the timing of scheduled tea auctions. The use of AI and sophisticated buying techniques and systems could be very, very important for our business. And this can be seen as our competitive advantage, that we have a sophisticated digital buying system in place. It must not be overlooked. That enables the purchasing department to identify any buying opportunities that are relevant to the company, because you want to buy at a low price at a good quantity, right? So your digital buying system can be seen as your competitive advantage, important, and can be said that the business in a very small way is harnessing technology, is harnessing data analysis in this system, which is a good thing because we are known as an innovative manufacturer, but we still have gaps in terms of using technology, which we'll come to as we go deeper. Right now, let's acknowledge this. Next, inventories of tea can then be managed efficiently, minimizing your holding costs and your wastages. Now, in this market, a JIT or a TQM, just in time, or a total quality management system doesn't seem to be a very apt one, because you will need to store, you will need to buy at a low price and then use. But it's a very clear evidence that our business does not use this method, because we are holding, we have inventories. And in JIT and the TQM method, inventories are looked upon as a waste. They don't add any value. Hence, they must be eliminated. So JIT and TQM principles state that as soon as a raw material arrives, goes into processing, ready and sold. For a market leader like us, this can be explored as one possibility or one area that we look at. For our business, where raw material price is volatile and the single most important input, these methods may be difficult, I understand that. But you can strive to achieve less inventories, less holding cost, less warehousing time, and total quality as the business grows. The price of black tea varies according to supply and demand, but it is always the single most expensive component of piping's costs, typically exceeding 40% of the total cost. So majority of our costs are committed in labor and in the buying of our most important input. So managing this cost will become more and more important for our profitability. The topics of sensitivity analysis come into the picture here. What happens to our profits or margins if one variable changes? This can be asked as an exam scenario, surely. Also, your payoff tables, payoff decision making can also be tested around this aspect. If this is the price, they can give you a full table. If this is the price of the input, this will be the cost of the final cost of the product. This will be our final profit. And based on that, you may have to choose the decision based on your risk attitude. Anybody who's revised their P2 syllabus, the risk area, will know what I'm speaking about. So sensitivity analysis comes into the picture here. Payoff tables comes into the picture here. Each batch of tea purchased is sampled on delivery by our blenders. The company has 6 blenders who have a tasting laboratory beside the factory. So remember, blenders are very important for this business. We've already highlighted that. Each batch of leaves has its own very unique flavor, which means that piping's teas would be consistent over time. And that is only possible because of our blenders. The blenders have the skill to taste each batch and to adjust for slight differences, altering the proportion of teas from different countries and different plantations to make sure that the tea taste remains consistent. So having expert blenders is very, very important for this business, and we've already highlighted that it is a competitive advantage to have skilled blenders in this business. Now a very technical part is coming up, which is the processing method, which is explained over here. Now the processing method is one that is very technical, and students often question, why is it important? Why am I to know the processing method? They're not going to ask me the processing method as a question, right? I understand that. But it's important, since you are understanding the company from the roots, it's important to understand the processes of your company as well, firstly. Secondly, knowing the details of the process can sometimes be important. Because in the question, for example, they may say that your metal drums have now spoiled. We are going to order new metal drums, and then you have to give an explanation for an NPV background question. But if you don't know where those massive metal drums are used, how will you make sense of it? You may get confused. If you've gone through this processing method, you will know that in step number 4, the paper sacks are transported mechanically and emptied into massive metal drums. So you'll know these details when they come up in the question, if again you've gone through the pre-scene. So never in the pre-scene you can assume that this is not important, that is not important. Everything in the pre-scene has to be gone through very, very carefully. And that is why we have presented it for you in a very simple, easy to understand, step-by-step way. So let's look at the processing method. Step number 1, black tea leaves are packed in large paper sacks at the plantation from where you're buying it from. The sacks are shipped to Piping's factory on wooden pallets that are stacked inside shipping containers. Step number 3, unprocessed black tea can be stored for years, although its flavor can slightly deteriorate. So using it quickly will be key. Manufacturers will in any case be keen to minimize inventory holding costs. So you want to use it as quickly as possible. Step number 4 will be when they are required for production, paper sacks are transported mechanically and emptied into massive metal drums with a number of sacks from each batch of black tea specified by the blender. So blender will decide how much goes into the metal drums from each batch, from each sack. The drums rotate slowly until the leaves from each batch have been mixed evenly. So it's a big drum that mixes this tea leaves from different batches. The sample is tasted by the factory's quality control technicians to confirm that the mixture of leaves is good. Step 6, if the blended tea leaves are to be sold as loose tea, then they are loaded onto production lines that weigh out the correct amount and they are packed. Tea leaves are then dropped onto sheets of foil that are cut, folded and sealed using heat to create packets of tea. So if it's going out as loose tea, it's packed and sold. Step number 7, finished. The packets are placed in cardboard boxes that are formed on the production line. That creates the retail boxes of tea that are ready to be stacked onto the retailer's shelves. The retail boxes are loaded into cardboard boxes then for shipping purposes. In one box there may be 10 boxes of loose tea or 10 packets of loose tea which are going to be seen on retailers' shelves. To make it easier for you, we have a diagrammatic format as well. So in this diagrammatic format, everything that I just mentioned, the 8 steps that I mentioned are present over here. They come as big sacks. From these big sacks, the tea blenders are going to make sure perfect quantity is, taken from each batch, mixed well, tasted, then packed. Then it goes into your big box. That box goes into another segment. For example, this loose tea, you can pack them as tea bags or you can pack them as a loose tea box. However, it's going to be sold, which is decided by the factory, which is decided by the production manager. For us to simply know that there are 9 steps that are involved over here. With that, we have come to the end of the first part of our pre-scene analysis. I thank you for being here. You will see that in the first part of the pre-scene, we showcase to you exactly how detailed our entire pre-scene analysis is going to be. And every single part is covered in the same way. The second part of the pre-scene focuses on the functions of the company. The third part of the pre-scene focuses on the financials. So a whole lot more is to come. We have very wide variety of material. We have very wide variety of mocks that we offer with our personalized support. So I'm hoping that you will find all of this helpful. My email is on the screen. My personal WhatsApp number is on the screen. You can reach us for more information. You can visit our website if you've not already. But signing up early is important as our seats fill up. Plus, it gives you flexibility in using our material. So thank you for being here. That was the first part of the pre-scene. I hope you have found it helpful.